This is the Peace Freak, the frequency of what peace is. That's what we're going to explore today. Why lucid dreaming may be a key to a more peaceful world. Dreaming is the way that we think in our minds, not in our brains, but in our minds. And so that movement of how we're creatively thinking and putting our ideas together, the ways that we're really interacting with one another and with ourselves, that's what's really important in our lives. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, and some really exciting research. Just a little bit about me. I am Barbara Condron, and I do think the world is a schoolroom, and I've been a student all my life and will be a student until I'm gone. So I've done quite a bit of work in mindfulness study and application, sharing, teaching, consulting. These are some of the things that I've done, and you can check more out about me in other venues. This man, I think you probably know. When Albert Einstein was asked what it was like to be the smartest man in the world, he said, "I don't know. Ask Nikola Tesla." Einstein was famous for his relativity thinking and his concepts of being able to understand how things move together, how they work together. He assumed that nothing could go faster than the speed of light, and that all light traveled at the same basic speed, regardless of the observer. So Einstein was very aware that in any experiment, the observer is a player, that the mere act of observing something causes a change. The mere act of putting your attention on something causes something to happen. That's how his thinking led to, how are we all related? How is anything related? I make this very personal. I make this very much how we interact one-on-one with other people. What is our relativity? Because I do see the world as a schoolroom, and I do see humanity as one big family with a lot of diversity, yes, but of one big family. And so we are all related. And I see humanity as being related to all of creation, therefore to the planet and to the universe in all ways. That's also what Einstein was looking at. And he came up with this equation. We had to look at this, right? So E is energy. What's energy? Energy is the ability to convert, to be able to move from one form into another. It's active. I think about energy and a fuel in a car. I think about the food that I put in my body being chemicalized and changed so that it becomes released as energy. I think of will and the ability for the mind to move and have energy. M in his equation is mass. Mass is energy put into a particular form. So when I use this computer, it doesn't all of a sudden shapeshift into something else. That there is a principle that links the thought into manifestation. That's pretty important. And E equals mc. The C is the speed of light. And what is light? The interesting thing about light is that scientifically we call it a photon. It's been talked about in spiritual and religious studies and scriptures all through eternity in regards to humanity. Light seems to be the common denominator. And what is it? How do we use it in our language? When something is brought to light, it means that we are awakened to it. We're aware of it. So the E equals mc squared would be light impressing upon itself. What was very interesting as I was preparing this for you, there was a headline of an article that said that after 103 years, Einstein's proposed special theory of relativity, which was in 1905, is corroborated by the efforts of a French, German, and Hungarian physicists that were working on demonstrating that he might actually have been onto something. Well, that's the theme here. And I think that that's how peace is. There are certain people that are kind of onto peace, and maybe the masses yet aren't quite there or haven't really thought about it or are hopeless, feeling like it's never going to happen. They're challenged in their faith. But that's part of what this peace thing is about too. Tesla, these two men were very compatible. Tesla said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. E equals mc squared. Nikola Tesla was a futurist. He's a man before his time. He was a 20th century Serbian American inventor. You can read about him. He's fascinating. Electrical engineer, mechanical engineer. He's best known for his contributions to the design of the modern AC electricity supply system. That's what enables us to use this technology of computers so that we can actually engage and attend this conference. Tesla was also an imaging and developing in his mind the technology for the wireless transmission of energy long before we cyberspace explorers now were even born. And so when we discuss frequency and dreaming, we want to include Tesla. And here's really why. In 1926, he talked about this. He could visualize the future. So he talked about the fact that there would be a huge brain that could connect everything from a distance. Remote viewing is what it's often been called by the military and other people that recognize that these superpowers that we have are not really some kind of strange phenomenon. It is a power that we're trying to develop our consciousness to be able to respond to with humility, compassion, love. He said that not only this, but through television and telephony, we shall see and hear one another as perfectly as though we were face to face, despite intervening distances of thousands of miles. And the instruments through which we shall be able to do this will be amazingly simple compared with our present telephone. A man will be able to carry one in his vest pocket. And so, indeed, we do, right? Tesla, even though he was considered on the fringes, the pale, 100 years ago in the early 1900s, his capacity to envision was strong and has endured. He was a spokesperson, a leader, as there are leaders now in the efforts of peace. I want to talk about why Tesla was so brilliant. At 7, he witnessed the death of his brother in a riding accident. And it was that experience that set his course to find ways to control his powerful imagination and photographic memory. I know that throughout my life, that has been a challenge for me in understanding the difference between true sight and my imagination, things that I'm making up. When is it that I'm really perceiving something in a true strategic, intuitive sense? And when I'm just playing with ideas and memories and creating something anew that's not really tied into other people. So the dreaming together is very important. It's at the very essence of our peace. Yet it doesn't arise if we're not at peace ourselves. In Tesla's autobiography, it was called My Inventions, he said this: "In my boyhood, I suffered from a peculiar affliction due to the appearance of images, often accompanied by strong flashes of light, which marred the sight of real objects and interfered with my thought and action. When a word was spoken to me, the image of the object it designated would present itself vividly to my vision, and sometimes I was quite unable to distinguish whether what I saw was tangible or not." So this faculty of being able to work with our own brilliance, our own superpowers, is really the conflict that we're now experiencing. It's not a conflict out here, it's a conflict inside. And how do we resolve that?